Greetings, Andy K here on location and deciding to do a little bit of an impromptu vlog. Well, semi-impromptu. The fact that whilst I'm visiting my parents I've got the camcorder and the audio recorder means I was obviously planning to do something if I had the time, but the subject matter, collector's editions once again, of a sort, is actually something spur of the moment, despite what my choice of t-shirt might imply. Now, this was literally just coincidence. I've just seen a video from N7 Kate about our video game collector's editions getting out of hand, which is a very interesting question. And, I've covered, anime and video collector's editions in the past, and, my preference, don't like them, is pretty established at this point. But there were some very interesting questions that she raised, and I figured I wanted to get some of my thoughts on camera as well. Obviously, my preference is for not collector's editions, or at least when it comes to physical editions, I don't like collector's editions. As I've said it before, I don't like a box to contain a box. Don't need to open something else. It's just a waste of time. Now, a box to contain multiple cases is a different matter entirely, because that's useful, but a box to contain a single case, not so much. And I personally don't have the space for collectibles and don't really see much point to them. Some people do, though, which is why collector's editions are popular in the first place. When it comes to games, I've pretty much given up on physical because I don't like swapping discs around. I want to be able to go, I'm playing this game, now I'm going to play this game, now I'm going to play this game, and none of that faffing around changing discs. I download my games. The other thing is, it means that if I choose to buy something, I'm not, limited to when can I get to a shop. So, heck, if I choose to buy something through the PlayStation Store, I can, say I could buy it via my iPad during lunch break at work, set it to download to my PS4, and by the time I get home, as long as I had it in standby, not just switched off, the game will be playable. But, I think it's digital games which are pushing some of this kind of collector's edition insanity onto some of the publishers, and if not necessarily the publishers directly, indirectly through the retailers. Because, brick and mortar stores, they thrive on selling physical copies of games. Whether it's brand new or second hand, people need to have bought the physical games in the first place for any of that to work. So they need to have versions out which actually have an incentive for someone to buy rather than just going digital, because unless you're an absolute hardcore I must have physical editions, I don't trust ephemeral downloads type person, and unless the physical editions are significantly cheaper than the digital store editions, which they often are, digital editions are just so much more convenient, unless you're in an area with really, really crappy internet. So, stuff like, the little day one clothing and mission DLCs, little things like that, those are going to be an incentive for physical, because, someone's kind of, thinking, well, I could just download it and then it's so much easier, because, why would I want to buy the disc and then wait for it to install when I can, pre-order the digital version, have it preloaded and unlock the moment it goes active. Well, little things like that make perfect sense. And, if you like your season passes, or whether or not you like your season passes, once you accept that season passes are currently a thing, if you want them, having a physical edition which says here's the game and a code for your season pass all encompassed, that actually makes a certain amount of sense. As to why there are so many multiples of versions, for example, N7K gave the example of all the different Assassin's Creed Origin collector's editions that are out. One thing that I wondered about would be, certainly in America or in other parts of the world, are some of the different versions exclusive to different retailers? Because big game shop A might want, might say, can we have a version that we can sell that has certain stuff that makes people want to come here, that they can only come here for? And another one will go, well, we want something that makes people come here. And other people just go, well, yeah, just give us a physical copy of the game, and anyone who isn't fussy about where they buy it can buy it here. So, I can see, again, some of it being retailer led. The other thing is, and this half ties into the thing about digital and physical, is there can be differing levels of collector. So, you'll get the people who, they aren't so much collectors, but they just want to buy a physical version because they like physical games, or they like to have something on their shelf or whatever. And then some people like something a little bit fancy. It's like, well, if I'm going to buy a physical version, make it worth my while. I like physical, but make it worth my while. So then, that's where you want sort of the low end, one or two physical extra things. Then there'll be people kind of going, wow, it's got a box and an art card. Oh, yeah, that's worthwhile. I see that kind of moaning an awful lot on the anime forums, so I'm imagining it probably happens a lot in gaming circles as well. So, you're gonna need to have kind of a collector's edition, which some collectors will think is worthy of the term collector's edition. And that's where I think the multiple levels in the lower end. And then when you've got the ridiculously overpriced ones like the Assassin's Creed Legendary Edition, that's about 700 quid or so. I suspect that, for one, that's because of the amount of things it has, but also it will be the individual quality. In some ways, it's probably less so much getting a collector's edition of a game that has a statue in it. It's no, this is getting a little statue with a free copy of the game, effectively, because there's always the problem with, with the quality that you get of collectibles that can get bundled in with games and movies and TV shows and the like, in that to keep them at a reasonable and affordable level, they can't be a high level of collectible that you might otherwise buy in a collector's item shop. So this, I suspect that kind of the Legendary Edition, in any sort of collector's edition which has really fancy kind of statues or models or stuff like that comes at like 200 quid or more, I suspect that that's less so much trying to say, if you're a really dedicated gamer, we think you should spend this much. I think this is more like the targeted at the kind of person who's going to go into Forbidden Planet or whatever, look at that kind of £200 or £300 model, go, I want that, and actually walk out with it after having legally paid, of course. But who is also interested in the games. It's a way of going, if you like your, it's not so much for the collector's edition collector, it's for the collector's item collector, bundling the game in with the statue rather than the statue with the game. Because it sounds very much like what's coming with that game is the kind of thing that I would like to see in the London Forbidden Planet store, in the big glass cabinet that you walk past and kind of, ooh, shiny, from all the games and anime and films and stuff that they sell merchandise for. So that is some of my thoughts, in that I think the reason that there's so many and with so many differing price points is because there are different levels of physical game fan these days, from the I don't want any collector's crap, but I don't want any digital crap either, just give me a disc in a box, the gaming equivalent of my anime self, from the make it worth my while, through to the make it worth my money, through to the I'm a hardcore collector, give me a free copy of the game for buying your expensive statue. So, yeah, in some ways it looks like it's getting ridiculous and out of hand, but I think when you put all that together with stuff like the retailers will be saying, hey, people are buying digital games and they're not coming into our shop, but they do buy collector's editions because you can't download a model and a map, or as Chris from RP Gamer would call them, the cloth map hanky. retailers want physical product to sell. So, and again, I've heard in, in like the toy industry and stuff, sometimes what sells, who decides what sells, it isn't just the people who make the product, it's the people who sell it. The retailers are saying, we don't want that, but we do want this. This sells shed loads, and the people creating the product sort of have to produce what sells. So if the retailers are saying just a disc in a box isn't moving much product off our shelves, give us something worthwhile, they sort of have to. But then you end up with these multiple, from the sublime to the ridiculous sort of thing. So is it getting out of hand? Maybe, but the problem is there's logic behind the madness. So I can't see it changing anytime soon. Well, I can't see it changing anytime soon until such point as people are, basically gaming at home on computer rigs that are attached to a 3D printer, and everyone's automatically got gear that can both play games and print off your physical items, at which point it all goes digital at that point. And with that, see ya.